Hi everyone, it's Roger and A here from FundedKingdom.com, and in this episode we are going to be discussing our favourite Tomorrowland attractions. Now this kind of, for us, can kind of come from Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, other parks around the world, but also attractions new and old. So I'm going to throw this straight over to A for the first one. Right, if you have to think of your sort of your favourite attraction straight off the bat, what do you think of?
Like Tomorrowland of all time?
Yeah.
Well, for me, obviously, Space Mountain, definitely a classic. Definitely one of my favorites. As far as like as a little kid and having memories, I've always loved the People Mover when it did exist out here in Disneyland. We've been without it for a while, but I always have fond memories growing up, just jumping on the People Mover and going through what used to be another classic attraction that I'll talk about in a second, but which was a Circle Vision. But anyways,
is that like because I've seen a few Circle Visions in like Epcot, like Canada and China. Is it that kind of one?
I'm not sure. I've never been, but
no.
Basically, what Circle Vision was. It was basically a theater you would go in and, whatever the film they were showing, it was themed to, first off, like the great places in the world, iconic places in America. I mean, I show you a bunch of things, but basically what it was is it was this room and there was a screen in like all 360 degrees around you. Yeah, and basically the way they would film that is obviously they had cameras all the way around whatever vehicle they had, and it was cool as a little kid just standing there and just experiencing stuff like that. It was very cool. But anyways, like I was talking about, also People Mover. You would just go through that. You would also go through the loading area for Star Tours, which is my fourth favorite. And you'd go through Space Mountain back in the day too, through People Mover. And a long time ago, there was a tunnel you'd go through that was themed to Tron, but that was all part of the People Mover. And like I said, the fourth one, which is my favorite, Star Tours, old and new. I mean, I still love the original. I still love the film. You're going through, you're going to the Endor, and now even the new 6 different destinations and randomness of it, it's awesome. And now that they're going to add another piece for Force Awakens, that's going to be cool. And then finally, probably fifth choice for me is kind of tough. But I'm going to say Autopia. Autopia was always fun growing up as a little kid, just driving a car. And I've seen Autopia change like 3 different times over the course of my life. So I've driven like 3 different tracks, and it's fun. It's just for a little kid who's always wanted to drive a car, you finally get that chance when you come to Disneyland. So those are my top 5 for Tomorrowland attractions. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like Tomorrowland, instantly the first thing that comes to my mind is Space Mountain. It's just one of those like classic attractions. But for me, it's like, obviously going to Disneyland and Walt Disney World and also Disneyland Paris, the difference between the 3 of them, because I'm going to be honest, the one in Paris is Space Mountain 2, and it's an entirely different beast because it's a full-on roller coaster. You have things over the things and you're whizzing upside down. It's kind of, it's an entirely different one, and it is, an awesome ride at Disneyland Paris. It's just a great, very different, because kind of go on the one in like Walt Disney World or Disneyland, and it's a lot smaller, a little bit more family friendly. And I just remember as a kid in Walt Disney World always going on Space Mountain and loving it. It's a shame I didn't realize till recently, because I know when I went to Disneyland, I hadn't realized how they change it sometimes with like putting in like the dipping in the new Star Wars bit and the Halloween like ghost version, which I always think is a cool way of kind of. I think that's is a cool little thing. But for me, yes, Space Mountain is the iconic. And also, when you see Disneyland or see Tomorrowland, the Space Mountain is the one thing that always catches your eye. It's the centerpiece of that zone. Also, like you said, Star Tours, because again, that's in Disneyland Paris as well. They're fantastic attraction. I always found it was a bit funny because in Paris it's still the original version, but also it's in French, which is luckily I always used to see it at Hollywood Studios in Florida. But in Paris it was always one of those weird things, with C-3PO talking in French and the rest of it. It's still one of those things I always have to do when I go to Disneyland Paris. And yeah, it's just an awesome ride. But obviously, as you said, I've been on the new version in Walt Disney World, and yeah, the new version kicks ass, and I can't wait for that one to come to Paris as well. Star Tours and all the rest of it. They're all one of my all favorite rides. Always love going on it. Even. And it's still funny just going on it now, even after you've been on the one in Walt Disney World where it's all been upgraded. I can't wait for that to come in soon.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of I always feel with Tomorrowland that I think even when I was a kid, it was never really what I would call my favorite zone because I think especially recently, it's kind of hasn't aged as well. It doesn't look quite as futuristic as it used to. I mean, in Paris, they're doing major upgrades to it, and they took it back in time and made it look a little bit like Jules Verne area.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in a different direction. So I'm trying to think of the other ones that always kind of stands out to me is Buzz Lightyear's Spin, the gun game. It's always something I always go on, and it's always a good fun. It's always a good fun attraction to go on. I mean, it's nowhere near as good as Toy Story Mania, but
that's what I say.
it's always a good fun blast. I think it's a lot more fun than like Men in Black Universal. It's a kind of good all-round game. I mean, like I said, I think it could do with a little bit of an upgrade because I'm standing there like this and like trying to line it up, and my wife's just whizzing around all over the place. But it's always one of my sort of favorite attractions is sort of Buzz Lightyear. It's funny you mentioned like People Mover because I've been on it a few times, but I wouldn't really call it sort of one thing that always sort of caught my attention.
Well, I mean, obviously for me, I mean, we haven't had it for like over a decade, and it's like when we did have it, it's just like it was an experience. You actually went through other attractions. You had private tunnels that were themed for just the People Mover. You'd go out in the wilderness and see all the cars driving around. You saw the monorail. You saw the what was the submarine voyage back then. I mean, you get to see all the classic stuff, and it was a nice long ride. I mean, you would actually just take a break from walking around. You would unwind. You would just sit and enjoy the sights and sounds of the parks, pretty much. So that's why I enjoyed it a lot. It got replaced when they redid our Tomorrowland with something called Rocket Rods, which was cool I think it lasted for a year, I think. But they decided to put fast-paced vehicles on an infrastructure that only supported slow-paced vehicles. They didn't even bank turns or anything, and so obviously the foundation was cracking, and so they had to stop the whole thing. And they were spending a lot of money on rubber tires, apparently. So, anyways, whatever. But anyways, that's my People Mover experience.
Yeah, it's kind of. I think when you think of other attractions, I think like obviously in Walt Disney World, the Carousel of Progress is kind of one of those. It's a classic attraction. It was always kind of thing of. I think as I got older, and especially as a sort of teenager and stuff, it was an attraction that I skipped. I think we went on it originally when I was a kid with my parents because it would have been a great one for my parents to kind of be able to sit down and sort of we could do it as a family. But having recently done it on the last visit to Walt Disney World, you can appreciate the history of it and look at it in an entirely different lifespan. It's such a different kind of thing of the thing traipsing around, and the idea that this was one of the original attractions of Disney. There's that kind of historical thing to it. It's kind of important from that point of view, and as a historian and sort of looking at it from that thing. But I will admit, I think I did loads and loads of visits as a teenager where we just went straight past it because it didn't appeal to us at all. But
and the classic was actually out here, so it's not like it was a big deal. So.
Yeah,
and then ours got converted to a ride called America Sings, which also shut down and all the animatronics got recycled and put into Splash Mountain, and
yeah,
a couple in Star Tours. So all that stuff didn't last.
Yeah, I think in general, I always think it's a lot of like the Disneyland sort of version over there in California has been a lot more kind of adjusting. It's always changing. It's always making differences. I tend to think like the one in Walt Disney World hadn't really changed too much, and I still think they've made a few adjustments here, and they've put in things like the Stitch Escape, which is a pretty rubbish attraction. I remember taking my wife. We were like, "Is that it?" It was that.
Yeah.
And I always felt like the Monsters Inc. sort of laughter floor never really sort of seemed to fit the theming for the area.
I was gonna say,
it was always like
tomorrow.
I never. It's like okay, so it never really felt like it was the right location for it. But it's going to be interesting where they go in the future with sort of adding in sort of new. I think obviously the new Star Wars land has kind of slightly changed the plan for Tomorrowland in Disneyland, but
that's so weird. Yeah,
but it's pretty cool. I mean, I think this is the thing with Tomorrowland, and it's kind of thing I always find that you sort of walk into, and there's a few attractions I go into, but there's always a few attractions that's like, well, I do that if I've got time, and it's always been, I'd probably say one of those. It was a real kind of hit and miss one with me. There's always some attractions you have to do, like I've said, like Star Tours and Space Mountain and Buzz Lightyear, and then there's all these other ones that it's like, nah, I'll do that later.
Yeah.
But we'd love to know your thoughts. What are your favorite Tomorrowland ones? Do you agree with our options? Let us know in the comments below. If you've got questions for us as well, remember you can let us know via sort of Twitter. I happily go through and do bits and pieces. And that's a big shout out to our patron, Ethan at magicbandscollector.com and sortapps.com. And we shall see you guys in a later video.
Great big beautiful Nora. See ya.
Big beautiful.